Good morning. So this is a Scrap Your Stash Wednesday, and I'm going to be using Lovely paper today. So this is the one with the yellow gingham on the back and the little flowers on the top. I just adjust my light just a little bit more so that you can see it better. I'm also going to be using Sage, which is a coordinating color. This is the espresso pattern paper from the Sweet Safari. It has the green on the back. I'm not going to be using the green, I'm going to be using the espresso. And then I have a zip strip from one of the mix-ins. This is a mix-in from last year. It's 9015. So just so you guys can see what mix-in. And then I have Daisy and Linen. And I'm not so sure which one I'm going to be using quite yet, but we'll see. We'll find out. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. So we're going to be cutting actually quite a few pieces of Sage, because I'm going to use this as backdrops for almost every piece I have. So I'm going to move some of this aside. And I'm going to start with the very back Sage, which I want to use that little one for the little guys. But the first one I'm going to cut is a 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just trimming it down 1/4 inch. So here's my 4. Oops, that was a 4 1/4. Let's do 4 inch instead. So 4 by 5 1/4, and that's gonna be my base. I'm gonna just set it aside up here for now so I know where I am. I'm gonna be trimming this one down 1/8 of an inch from that. So I'm gonna be doing 3 7/8. By 5 1/8. So that there is just a teensy-weensy bit peeking out all the way around. So you have a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. It's like just a little frame. Okay, that's all we're doing. And that's what we're going to be doing for a lot of this. So there's some scraps. I'm going to go ahead and trim 2 of these pieces. One is going to be at 2 by 4, and the other one is going to be 3 1/2 by 1 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it at 2 to start off with. So there's 2 inches. Then I have a 4 inch, 2 by 4. And a 1 1/2 by 3 1/2. So I'm going to trim it down to 1 1/2, and then I'll trim the 3 1/2. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 1/2 first. Let's do 3 1/2 first, and then the 1 1/2. I was going to say that did not look right. There's 3 1/2. There's my 1 1/2. Now I have a nice little zip strip scrap there. Okay, so there's these 2, just so you can see that I trimmed a 2 by 4 and a 1 1/2 by 3 1/2. I'm going to set those aside. I am going to do the same with the Sage and make a little frame behind those. So I'm going to do 2 1/8. By, I don't know if I have enough on this one. Nope, I don't. Okay, so let's do, should have measured that before. Let's do 4 1/8. So this is going to be for the 2 by 4. So 4 1/8 by 2 1/8. Okay, and that's going to be for the larger one. Okay, so it's going to be something like that, where there's a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So I'm just going to put them together so I know that they go together. This one I'm just going to pre-measure, make sure I have a 3 and let's see, 5/8, I guess it would be, yep, because it's 1/8 above 3.5, which I do. So go 3.5 plus 1/8 is 3 5/8. By 1 5/8. So it's 3.5 by 1.5. And you can always check your work by lining this up, and they almost look the same. Yep, perfect. So there's my little frame. Okay, so now I'm going to do one more sage, and it's going to be, let's see, 2 1/8. So there's the 2 1/8, but I think it's still too short. Nope, I think I can do this one. 2 1/8 by 3 5/8. Good, I was able to use that one that I trimmed. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to get, maybe let's do linen for this one. This is going to be our sentiment, our decoration area. I'm not going to put the sentiment here. I'm going to put something on it, but it's not going to be a sentiment. It's not going to say best wishes or whatnot. So this is going to be a 2 by 3.5. So let's just get the 2 first. By 3.5. And this is going to go on that sage that we just cut. So again, a little frame all the way around. Now I just have one more to trim, and that's my zip strip, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 inches. And zip strips are 1/2 inch, just in case you don't have a zip strip, then you know how much you need to trim. Okay, so I have a whole pile of scraps left over, which you'll see in another video, I'm sure. Okay, set my trimmer aside, bring all my stuff back in. I forgot to grab a card base, so let's do that. There's your card base. Okay. And I'm actually going to keep the daisy, or the linen. Let's keep the linen out. I think this one will be just fine. Maybe we'll keep daisy too. I might stamp on daisy actually. Might be a truer color. And you can really see the difference between linen and daisy. So it's quite a big difference, especially the dark side of linen. The light side of linen, not so much, but the dark side for sure. You can see a big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and tack all these nice little pieces together, and then that way they're flowing as one unit, and I only have four units instead of 8. So I'm going to go ahead and tack these on. I'm just using my Tombow tape runner. If you haven't used these, they're super nice, and they're easy to replace the tape in them. You just click this little back, pop it out, and put a new one in. The hardest thing about replacing it is opening the new package of tape, which I always seem to have issues with. So there's one piece done. I'm not going in any specific order. I am going to be using dark side of linen just because of the contrast, and I'm probably going to be using some linen. I should probably use the light, but I'm going to be using linen ink. So we'll just tack that on for right now. And if I mess up, I'll just redo it. Or figure it out how to cover it up, right? Now, if you don't have linen ink, you may have heard me say this before, but linen ink is just kind of fun because it's a really light color, and the papers just kind of absorb it in a different fashion. And I'm going to be using the other side of this one. And it just makes it just a very light background if you want a background stamp. Just makes it really fun, gives it a little bit more character. Okay, so now I have these 4 pieces and my little zip strip. So these are what I'm working with now. I'm going to use my daisy here later. Okay, so the ridge always goes in the inside, so I always lay this with the ridge down. I'm going to be working on this side. I'm going to go ahead and center this. This is my big one with the espresso. And on this one, I may have to white emboss the sentiment. I don't know how I'm going to do the sentiment yet because this is a really dark color. And I didn't think about that beforehand. Okay, then, let's see, I think I'm going to do, not that one. Let's do this one next. And I'm going to put it right to the edge of that one. Now, let's play with this. So the way I want to do it, I may want to do it this way instead. So you see more of that. So that it could go like that, or it could go like that. I think I kind of like it like that, so I'm going to tack the flowers on first. And I liked it just like that, actually, so that's about 1.5 inches up, just so you guys know. Okay, this one I'm going to put pretty much in the middle. I just want to make sure that this is how I do want it. Yep, I think that'll be good. So I'm going to have 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. I'm just going to put 1/2 inch all the way around this one. And I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch over here, but actually I have this guy too that I wanted to put in, and maybe that's when I do this one. Yeah, let's do it like that. So let's do our 1/2 inch little strip, or zip strip. And leave a comment down below if you guys like the sketches of these, because I always have a sketch digitized, or I've started to digitize them before I even do these little videos for you guys. So let me know if you want a sketch. I can post the sketch that I used. Oh, is it gone already? It sure is. Okay. So I think because I'm so close to being done, I'm just going to use my liquid glue. If you're not familiar with the liquid glue is kind of nice to use when you're trying to place something. Oh, I kind of didn't want to do this yet, but that's okay. We'll just do it and we'll stamp on top. If you want to slide it around, it makes it a lot easier to slide around and move around, but that's okay. We're good. I can always mask. Okay, so there's that. And I probably will mask. So I wanted to stamp that before I put it on, but that's okay. We all get ahead of ourselves every now and then. So I'm using the April stamp of the month. Really cute little stamp. This is the Scandinavian Folk Art Greetings. Very cute. And I think the one that I want to do in linen is this little guy here. This little, like, it's like almost like a flower leaf thing. I don't know quite what it is. And I only grabbed my 2 favorite blocks, so I'm just going to use my 2 by 3.5 inch block. And with these little guys, you don't need a whole lot of movement, but this is a new stamp set. I think I've used this one before, but season it anyway. It's always good to season your stamps, unless they're like super well loved. Some of mine are. And then I always have a scrap piece of paper somewhere nearby so that I can mask. Okay, so I'm just gonna come in here and I'm just doing this just as like a little background, and I'm being more methodical than I normally am with this. But you always want to create visual triangles, and a lot of the time I turn my stamp and create them, but I think this time I'm just going to keep it very simplistic. And a nice pattern all the way down. And I probably won't see any of the ones in the middle, or not much of them. I do want to mask this because I do kind of want just a little touch of one coming in. Like that. So it looks like I cut up a pattern paper. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, so let me see if I can grab my light and show you. So there it is. Really basic, but kind of elegant looking. My chamois is, of course, not wet. If you don't have a wet chamois, I just use a squirt bottle. And I just soak it up. You can also always have a bowl of water nearby. Dip it in that. I think that's what Home Office recommends. It's just having a bowl of water. But spray bottle, I always have a spray bottle because I do distressed oxides. And it just makes a really neat effect with those. So I always have a spray bottle. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is the boot. So there's a little boot. And I'm going to be doing that on Daisy. And I think I'm going to tie in. I'm going to either do, so I pulled 3 colors. I didn't pull sage because I think I have enough sage on here. But I did pull 3 other colors. I pulled evergreen, toffee, and bluebell. And those are all coordinating colors. I figured they're not used in any of this, but so maybe incorporate them now. So I think I might try a boot in bluebell. And then I'm going to fussy cut the boot because these don't come with thin cuts. Or stamp of the months never come with thin cuts. So if you're needing a stamp of the month, make sure you know that you're going to fussy cut. And I'm going to use that same block, the 2 by 3.5, which is like perfect for this one. barely fits, which is really perfect. Now I could do a couple techniques. I could do a rock and roll, which might actually be kind of cool. I've used this one quite a bit because I did some ombre stamping not too long ago, and they turn out super cute. So let me see if I can find one so I can show you my ombre stamping with this. And this stamp set is great for that. Let's see if I can find one. Can't find the boot, but I can find the little jar. And that was done with lemonade and glacier. And then you get almost an avocado color in the middle, which is quite neat. Same with the little envelope. So instead of buying the little ombre stamp or ink pads from somebody else and not having exact coordinating colors, there is an ombre technique. So let's try. I might try a rock and roll with this too. If you're not familiar with rock and roll, then you'll learn what that is. So you stamp. I'm going to just do a first generation too. But with this, actually, I should have my Versamat on the other side, because really these solid stamps are better with two mats. Okay, so there's actually, that turned out pretty well. I'm going to do a second generation stamp over here. I actually should have done, yeah, I just want to see what it's going to do. So a rock and roll, you would create a different color. So let's just keep going and we'll do a rock and roll. So there's my first gen, second gen. Let's do another first gen, and then we'll do a rock and roll. So there's another first generation. Then what you do is you lift it up. That's not as good. And I'm only going to ink the edges. So, and if you have like a circular one, that's why it's called rock and roll, is because you do a rock and roll motion like this on your ink pad. But because this has some weird angles like the boot, I'm just gonna dab the edges. So now I have a second generation in the middle, first generation on the edges. And you could always do a different color too. Just make sure you do the first color in a lighter color so that you're not staining your other ink pad. So I'm not super fond of the rock and roll in this one. With flowers and hearts, it's really kind of it's a really neat technique with those. I think I'm going to stick with my first stamp. Doesn't mean that I won't use these somewhere else, but definitely like the first one best. When I fussy cut, I always narrow it down. And you move the paper, not your scissors. You keep your scissors very stationary. And you just move your paper. Okay, almost there. And really, these are, most of our Stamp of the Months are pretty darn easy to fussy cut. So that is nice. And if you're trying to buy more stamp sets for less money, you can always look at the actual stamp set, see how difficult it would be to fussy cut. So, some of them are not hard to fussy cut. And then it would save you on the thin cuts. But if you don't like fussy cutting, then get the thin cuts. There's my little boot. I get some 3D foam tape. My favorite use after a shaker is the use of the 3D foam tape. And Close to My Heart does not skimp on anything, guys. The quality and their ideas for making sure that you get the most bang for your buck is amazing. Okay. Oh, maybe what I do, let me see, before I put that on, I was going to use the hello sentiment, and actually that'll fit. So I think maybe I'll put the hello down here, and maybe I do that in evergreen or toffee. So there's my boot. Okay. And I put one in the middle because, or else it sags. So you want to make sure that there's no sagging going on. So these are the other two colors that I have left. I think I'm going to use evergreen. It's just a bolder color. So I'm going to peel off my boot. And I'm going to use the sentiment Hello from the same stamp set. And this will be available to you guys on April 1st. $18.95 normally. If you're a VIP, you can get it for free, and that's with the VIP membership and then a $50 purchase. If you're not a VIP, you can get it for $5 with any $50 purchase. Okay, so I've never used this one, so I'm really seasoning it. There we go. Just getting that tackiness off. Bring back my foam. And I want to make sure that I don't have any ink around it, because I don't want it smudging on anything else. Okay. So there's hello. Okay, now I kind of want to bring in some bling. I mean, it looks cute and it's pretty well ornate as is, but I think I want to just bring in some very subtle black bling. You could either use black, or a coordinating color is the ballerina pink, and I have a similar color in that with the pearls. We have a ballerina pink pearl, or I have a black pearl. And this is the onyx. But I think I'm just going to use the black. And I just want it more subtle. I don't want it really too bright. And I always test it out on my mat so that I know that it doesn't have any bubbles coming out, because you don't want it to shoot across your project. And I'm just going to put 3 dots. Yep, there goes an air bubble. Darn it, didn't do it long enough. So, looks smudgy thanks to a nice air bubble. Just taking an X-Acto and kind of scraping it so that maybe it'll go back in where it needs to go. Okay. Looks better than what it did, that's for sure. So, grab my light. There's the card. I will post a picture of it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your favorite part of the card is in the comments below. And I will see you on Saturday. You guys have a great rest of your week. Bye.